Hi everyone, I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for joining me. Today is Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. Mainstream media hasn't been covering this, but since July 13th, there in Suwayda, a predominantly Druze city in southern Syria near the Jordanian border, has been gripped by deadly sectarian clashes between Druze militants and Sunni Bedouin tribes, escalating tensions in a region already unstable after the fall of Bashar al-Assad in December of last year. The violence, which has killed over 200, maybe 250 people, including 92 Druze, supposedly, and 93 sectary forces. Now, they are forces that of the new ruling party, which used to be considered terrorists, but now the U.S. has, I don't know, they got some kind of an agreement with them. And 18 Bedouins and civilians. I don't know how many civilians have been killed. This prompted the Syrian government, the new government forces, to intervene. They ended up being faced with Israeli airstrikes targeting their positions. Israel claims its actions protect the Druze minority, while Syria and others condemn them as violations of sovereignty. At the beginning of this conflict, I believe back on the 13th, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, his convoys were advancing towards the city of Suwayda in southern Syria, threatening violence against the Druze community and vowing to deliver justice over alleged insults directed at the Prophet Muhammad. What do you think? Does the IDF have a reason to stop them? Should they go in and protect the Druze? The fighting erupted on July 13th in Suwayda's Al-Makka neighborhood between Druze militants and Bedouin tribes. This has evidently been fueled by long-standing feuds. The violence then spread to rural areas like Sunni, Mazara, and Tara, and there was reports of shelling and kidnappings. By July 16th, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, as they're called, reported 203 to 250 deaths, including 4 children, 5 women, and 19 Druze civilians killed in alleged field executions by the government forces. Remember, they used to be considered terrorists, and now the U.S. is, got some kind of treaty with them. Syria's new government, the Interior Ministry, deployed forces to restore order, citing a collapse of security due to absent installations. Then on July 15th, the defense minister announced a ceasefire, but it collapsed within hours after a Druze leader, Sheikh Hikmah al-Hadri, accused the government troops of breaching it. There's been supposedly 200 injuries, damaged villages, and chaotic border scenes near the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. A woman reported that her husband was shot by security forces, highlighting civilian fears. On July 14th through the 15th, Israel launched drone and airstrikes on Syrian military targets in Suwayda and Dakota, hitting tanks, convoys, and the Syrian Defense Ministry headquarters in Damascus. When I seen Damascus, heard about Damascus, that perked up my ears because of prophecy. On July 16th, supposedly 3 were killed, 34 injured. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz justified the airstrikes as protecting the Druze and in enforcing a demilitarized zones south of Damascus, citing Syrian troops deployment as a violation. Since of December of last year, after the fall of the government, Israel has conducted hundreds of strikes in Syria, one every 3 to 4 days, targeting weapons stockpiles, airfields, and naval assets. There evidently was 480 strikes in just 48 hours between December 8th and the 10th, destroying 70, maybe 80% of Syria's strategic weapons, Some of you might remember that. They worried about the terrorists getting a hold of the weapons after Assad left the country, and so Israel did that. Syria condemned the strikes as treacherous aggression, alleging that civilian and military deaths had occurred. Turkey and Saudi Arabia criticized Israel's action as destabilizing, while the U.S. urged calm and reportedly asked Israel to halt airstrikes on July 15th. The Druze, with a population of about 700,000 people, are only about 3% of the population, primarily live in Suwayda and Damascus, and the surrounding suburbs. Since Assad's fall, they fear persecution under interim president, a former al-Qaeda affiliate, Ayman al-Sharaa. He's their president now. He pledged to protect the minorities, but I don't think he has been. Israel justifies its airstrikes as protecting the Druze and preventing Syrian forces or its weapons, such as chemical stockpiles, from threatening its border near the Golan Heights. Israel's recent action follow a pattern of regional strikes such as Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen, and Iran. The Suwayda clashes and Israel's involvement have sparked discussions about biblical prophecy, particularly among Christians and prophecy-focused audiences, due to Syria's role in end-time scenarios. Isaiah 17:1 describes the destruction of Damascus. This prophecy states Damascus will cease from being a city, and it will be a ruinous heap. While Damascus has been conquered historically in the past, it has never been fully destroyed. The intense Israeli strikes on Damascus on July 16th, they're a day ahead of us or something like that, about 12 hours ahead of us. So it was during the daytime there that they did the airstrikes on Damascus, and there's been more strikes now, which is now nighttime there. Ezekiel 38 and 39, those chapters describe a coalition led by Gog and Magog, often interpreted as Russia and allies like Persia, modern-day Iran, attacking Israel. The Suwayda strikes occur amid Russian-Iran ties, Russia's $1 billion missile deal with Iran, raising questions about escalating Middle East conflicts. So do you think Israel's bombing, could this spark a biblical prophecy? Earlier, several of Israeli Druze citizens, Druze that were living there in Israel, tried to cross into southern Syria. They were detained by soldiers of the Israeli Defense Force before, being turned back and returned to Israel. The new president, like I said, was a former al-Qaeda officer, I believe. They have not attacked Israel at all since he took office. And supposedly he's been trying to prevent attacks by Iran against Israel. So he's been working on that, which is surprising. But yeah, people often say one thing but actually do another. I don't know. Evidently, there has been hundreds of Israeli Druze that had crossed the border into Syria, claiming that they want to do what they can and that Israel is not doing enough to support the Druze minority militants, despite continuing airstrikes against it. I do have a clip of Benjamin Netanyahu speaking about these airstrikes and what they're doing there in Syria.
We will not allow a return to a situation where a second Lebanon is being established there, and we are also obligated to protect the Druze residents. We are doing this through intense operations. I hope we will not have to operate anymore. It depends very much on what is understood and done, and also what is not done in Damascus.
Syria's foreign ministry also released a statement saying they were protecting the Druze as well as all citizens of Syria, and that Syria would hold Israel responsible for the, quote, aggression and its consequences. In response, Israel's foreign ministry said this on X. The Syrian army and security forces, together with allied jihadist militias, have once again perpetrated massacres against the Druze minority in southern Syria.
So what are your thoughts? Put your comments down below. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.